Minka revealed these tragedies in a way that stunned her admirers in her most recent biography, Tell Me Everything. She disclosed that the perfect existence depicted on film was a cover for a reality that featured toxic relationships, domestic abuse, and a never-ending quest for self-worth. She talked of a period in her life when she thought that in order to make other people happy, she had to sacrifice her own happiness. For her, this candor marked a sea change. She was finally able to accept her past rather than feel guilty about it by sharing her tale. She wanted others to understand that coming from a messy background is acceptable and that your past does not have to dictate your future. She had long kept this revelation a secret out of concern that people wouldn't view her the same way once they found out. Rather, it increased her admirers' love and admiration for her. Her emphasis on healing is one of the most interesting aspects of her current journey. Minka has made a strong case for the value of therapy and taking action to end trauma cycles. She came to see that she frequently sought stability and safety in her relationships, things she had not had as a child. She has discovered a new form of independence by identifying these patterns. She is now a lady who is flourishing on her own terms rather than the girl who is merely attempting to survive. She travels, works on initiatives that are important to her, and surrounds herself with people who support her. Her strength now comes from the sadness of her past. I sincerely appreciate you seeing this in-depth look into Minka Kelly's life and tragedy. Her story is a masterclass in perseverance and the value of speaking your own truth. We hope you had fun discovering the actual woman behind the well-known roles and witnessing how she transformed her suffering into a potent healing message. We would like to hear from you now. Did you know that Minka had a challenging upbringing prior to the publication of her book? And over the years, which of her roles has been your favorite? Tell us in the comments section below. Please give this video a big thumbs up and tell your friends about it if you were as moved by her tale as we were. Stay watch for our future video, as we will be sharing many more tales about the strength and secrets of your favorite celebrities. We'll see you in the upcoming one. The world perceived Minka Kelly as a woman with everything for a long time. She appeared to be the epitome of a Hollywood success story because to her gorgeous appearance, her acting prowess, and her appearances on some of the most watched television programs of the last 20 years. The majority of people recall her as the face of several high-end fashion labels or as Lila Gerety, the stunning cheerleader on Friday Night Lights. The tabloids were constantly fascinated by her dating life, and she frequently appeared on lists of the world's most attractive women. Beneath that flawless smile and the glitzy red carpet appearances, however, was a tale of intense suffering, instability, and a childhood that was everything from what it seemed. Everyone was unaware of how complicated and depressing Minka Kelly's life actually was. We will delve into Minka Kelly's undiscovered narrative today, examining the horrors she experienced as a child, her complex connection with her parents, and the hidden challenges she had to conquer in order to reach inner peace. We're going to discuss a particular revelation from her most recent memoir that altered everyone's perception of her and the reasons she claims to be at last free from her past, so you'll want to watch this video through to the very end. Long before Minka Kelly ever set foot in Hollywood, her life was filled with tragedy. Despite being born in Los Angeles, she had a very unstable upbringing. Although Rick Dufay, the guitarist for the well-known rock group Aerosmith, was her father, he wasn't really involved in her early years. Rather, Minka's mother, Maureen Kelly, was the primary caregiver. Maureen was a single mother who made ends meet by dancing in strip clubs. This meant that instability, poverty, and a persistent sense of alienation characterized Minka's early years. They frequently lived in motels or tiny flats, and occasionally they didn't even have a stable place to call home. Any youngster would find this degree of unpredictability difficult, but for Minka, it was her only experience. At a time when most children are still playing with toys, she had to learn how to take care of herself because she spent a lot of time alone while her mother worked long hours. The complex relationship Minka had with her mother is among the most depressing aspects of her narrative. Despite her intense affection for her daughter, Maureen had her own personal issues. She struggled with addiction and a way of life that made it challenging to give a developing daughter a secure and stable environment. Minka has expressed that she felt more like a parent than a child. She had to deal with her mother's erratic behavior, her financial difficulties, and the many city changes. Sometimes they would sleep in a motel and wake up with no idea where they would get their next meal. Minka experienced severe anxiety as a result of this scrapping for survival, which persisted for years. She gained the ability to conceal her emotions and put on a strong face, which would later benefit her as an actress but came at a high cost to her mental well-being. Another tragic aspect of these early years was the absence of her father. Minka sorely needed stability and protection, but Rick Dufay was not there to give it. They didn't really get back in touch and develop a connection until she was an adult. Minka felt extremely alone in the world growing up without a father figure and with a mother who was either absent or struggling. She lacked both a safety net and a mentor. She has spent the majority of her adult life attempting to overcome this lack of a basis. Her ability to survive was the key to her success, but it was tragic that she had to survive at all. She lost out on the basic pleasures of a typical childhood because she was compelled to mature far too quickly. Minka's life was difficult before she rose to fame as an actor. She didn't just happen to land a top part in a television program. She spent a number of years working as a surgical assistant and scrub nurse. She has described how, frequently still in her scrubs, she would work long stints at the hospital before attending auditions. During this period, she was merely attempting to make ends meet and break free from the poverty cycle that had characterized her early years. She was a diligent worker accustomed to the grind, but she also felt alienated in the Hollywood industry. She lacked the wealth and contacts that many of her peers possessed. In a town that values beauty above reality, she was a regular girl with a troubled history who was attempting to succeed. Friday Night Lights was her big break, and all of a sudden, everyone knew who she was. However, the traumas of her personal life followed her even after she rose to fame. Because of her high-profile relationships with guys like Derek Jeter, Chris Evans, and Trevor Noah, she was falsely called a serial dater by the media, which grew fixated on her dating life. For Minka, this public condemnation was yet another source of sorrow. Instead of focusing on her personal qualities, the tabloids highlighted the people she was spotted with. The mother who had worked in hospitals to make ends meet and the little girl who had lived in hotels were unknown to them. They simply made assumptions after spotting a stunning actress. This seemed to Minka like simply another instance of being misinterpreted and misrepresented, as she had experienced as a child. The death of Minka's mother was the greatest catastrophe in her life. Minka and Maureen were quite close despite all the turmoil and the challenging years. The fire of their common hardships created a bond between them. Maureen received a colon cancer diagnosis in 2008, just as Minka's career was taking off. In the same way that she had taken care of her as a child, Minka gave up everything to be by her side. Her mother's last few months were both lovely and devastating. They were able to achieve a degree of peace and reconciliation that they had never experienced before. According to Minka, her mother was her best friend and strongest supporter despite her imperfections. A significant portion of Minka's world vanished with Maureen. She was devastated by the loss of the only steady relationship she had ever experienced.